Closing Table Talk with Kate and Ileana.
Hey everyone, we're so excited to be here with you this week and share our insight. This program is geared to give you guys an insight into the New York residential real estate market. We hope you enjoy.
Today we're going to talk about 10 really crucial, important steps in buying a home.
So let's get this party started. All right.
I want to buy a property. Now what?
Right, what do? So you don't want to live in your mom's basement anymore, just had a baby, making your own money, it's time to stop renting, time to start buying. First step is...
stop spending your money and start saving.
That's right. So make sure you start stacking that cheddar so you have a nice, healthy down payment. Step 2 is if you want to start creating a mental picture of the house or apartment or home that you're looking for, that really helps your realtor match you later on. So start thinking of your must-haves, your needs, the full list of everything you hope for in your property, and that'll help us narrow things down in the future.
Yeah. What if I don't know exactly where I want to move? I have a few different areas that I'm interested in. What's the best way to choose your location?
So that's actually a great question. A lot of what I see clients do, and I always recommend this too, is think about your commute. What would you tolerate? Is it maximum of an hour, maximum of 30 minutes, 45 minutes? Think about the commute, map out where geographically you could achieve that time, and open up to all those areas. Generally from Lower Westchester, you can be in Manhattan within 45 minutes or less. As you move a little bit north in Lower Westchester, you can end up being 45 minutes to an hour, and that'll bring you into a little bit of northern Westchester.
Yeah, I always like to tell people, think about your lifestyle outside of work as well. Where do you like to eat? What do you like to do on the weekends? Do you have a boat and you want to be 10 minutes from the marina, or would you like to be able to go hiking within a 15-minute drive from your house? So lifestyle choices are really important in choosing the right community, and your realtor is only going to have a limited ability to tell you about communities because of some of our New York State laws. So we always tell people, go out on the weekends, go out to dinner, visit the playgrounds if your kids need to be outside. Anything that's really going to get you acquainted with the different communities and what it's like to live there, go and do that.
Right. Yeah, another thing is, as you start visiting areas and start narrowing down the neighborhoods or towns or cities that you really like, after your showings with your realtor, go have lunch. Beforehand, go have breakfast, go have brunch, go have dinner. After work, try the commute. This will also help you get a full feel of what the areas are like during different times of the day or different days during the week as well, just to make sure you like the feeling of coming home to this area as well.
Great. That's a really good idea.
Yeah, I always recommend that.
Yeah.
Especially when they're getting close to making an offer. That's a really good idea. If you really like a house and you've been looking in 3 different towns or neighborhoods, then come visit the house after work. Commute as if you were commuting from work and coming home.
So now you have to figure out what you bring to the table with your finances.
Step 3.
Okay, great. We know the style of house we want. We know the community that we want to live in. Now we're ready for our realtor to take us out to see homes.
Not so fast.
Pump the brakes.
No, step 3 is actually speak with a lender. You want to speak with a lender because you need to know the full picture of what you bring to the table based on what your down payment is, what your credit score is like, what your debt is, what your debt load is. Your lender will be able to determine what your buying power is. So before we take you out, it's better for you to actually have a picture of what your budget is, right? We don't want to go buy a car without a budget. We can't do the same thing without a house. Otherwise, everyone would be buying $1 million houses, and that's not realistic. The other thing too is if you start looking at homes without a budget in mind, you may look at homes that are above your budget and then start being very disappointed with what you can actually afford. So you want to make sure you take into account your budget before you go out and set yourself up for disappointment and ultimate sadness that you couldn't get the marble kitchen, the gunite pool, you know, and all the glitz and glam.
Also, if you're working with a bank that operates on a national level and your broker is based out of Wisconsin, make sure that they know Westchester taxes, because they're going to need to calculate the correct amount of taxes to give you a accurate pre-approval.
So also, to add to Kate's point, taxes make a big difference because depending on where we're looking, whether it be in the Bronx or Manhattan, Queens versus Bronxville, Pelham, New Rochelle, or Larchmont, etc., taxes can vary greatly. And so your budget that was $750 in Queens may now look like $600,000 in Lower Westchester or even Northern Westchester as well.
So, time to speak with one of us.
Yes, time to start looking at houses. And this part of the process is definitely the most fun, and it can be the most tiring. So in this step, you're gonna want to match yourself up with a realtor, because this is how you alleviate a lot of the heartache and pain. So, you know, once you match with a real estate agent that you like, sometimes it could take interviewing 3 or 4, but once you find the one that you like and knows their business, you know, it's time to make that love connection and seal the deal.
Your realtor is going to be able to give you some really great market information to help you set your expectations for your home search. Whether the market is, homes are flying off the shelf in your price range, or whether you have some more negotiating power, it's a little bit more of a buyer's market. They're going to tell you where to get the best pie, where to go for, you know, a great authentic slice of pizza, things like that. We can really inform you about the market and then about the community that you really want to get to yourself acquainted with.
The other advantage of working with a realtor and actually using a buyer's agent is that your buyer's agent, their job is to work for you. So they represent your best interests. Their job is literally to find you the best house at the lowest price. So they're working for you to find everything on that wants, needs, you know, that vision board list, and then fighting for you to make sure that you're not overpaying, and that there's no hiccups along the way. So they really help you get the maximum out of your budget, and then help take you through the whole process. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? So an agent's job as your buyer's agent is to work exclusively on your behalf. Everything you discuss is confidential, and their job is to find you the best home at the lowest price based on all of your needs and wants and your budget. So they're a great asset. The other beautiful part of it is that the seller pays for it. So generally, the seller allots money to pay for your buyer's agent's commission. And so it's free for you to have an advocate working on your behalf, just like your attorney, your title company, your lender. It's just someone else on your team working for you to give you the best kind of service and the best out of this transaction.
And the buyer's agent will guide you through the whole process from the first showing all the way to the closing table. A buyer's agent can help you with some resources if you're new to the area or have never purchased a home before and you need a recommendation for a home inspector or maybe a local real estate attorney. Buyer's agents have tons of resources for you, and we'll give you several people to choose from to interview. And we usually choose people that we've worked with before. We won't recommend somebody who we don't know.
Right.
It's people that we've worked with, have closed transactions with other clients, and our other clients have been satisfied. So we always also recommend that you speak with anybody that you know for a personal recommendation, but we can be a resource in those areas. So if I see a house that I really like, I'm going to call the listing agent, find out the price, you know, set up a showing.
Yeah, that's definitely one way to do it. A lot of clients, especially coming from New York City where it is listing agent centric, will prefer to work with the listing agent directly. But it's important to keep in mind, when you work with the listing agent, their job is to have the seller's best interest in mind. And as a listing agent, my job is to sell the house for the highest money possible. So even though I'm gonna treat you like a doll and give you the best service, my end goal is still to get the most money for my seller. And sometimes I think buyers also think, hey, if I can work with a listing agent, maybe there will be a trickle down effect. Maybe I can get a discount. What's your experience?
It doesn't happen that way.
No, absolutely not. Because in our contracts are signed before the properties go on the market. So in the event that we do have a buyer who wants to work with the listing agent exclusively, those terms have already been ironed out way before you show up. So there is no trickle down effect. The trickle down effect of savings will only happen for the seller and never to the buyer. Still, my job is to get the most money for my seller. And that's not to say that I couldn't be helpful to a buyer who doesn't know things, but ultimately I still have to do my job.
And as a buyer's agent, you know, we're fortunate to work in an environment that has a MLS, which is the multiple listing services. So, you know, homes on the market can be shown by any licensed realtor. So you're not going to miss out because you can't see a listing since you're working with a buyer's agent in Westchester. Buyer's agents can also help be a liaison if you find a home for sale by the owner. We can contact the owner and still negotiate on your behalf. Representation for your best interests is very important.
Correct. Yeah, sometimes people think, oh, I see a for sale by owner, that's great, I'm gonna get a steal. Well, not necessarily, because you don't know the market as well as a licensed agent does. And so, you know, who's running your comp reports, who's checking to see that the taxes the seller is giving you are correct, and they're not a veteran with multiple discounts on their tax rates, along with a discount for being a senior. So that's where the agents come in. They also do a lot of due diligence beforehand, making sure that the deck is legal, making sure, hey, I bought this I'm looking at this 5-bedroom, 3-bath property. Are all these bathrooms on the property card? That's where your buyer's agent comes in, whether a property is listed for sale on the MLS or it's a for sale by owner. It's all that fact checking to do beforehand, before you're in contract, before you've wasted 3 months, and now the other backup house is gone too.
Sounds like a lot of work.
It is. It is, and that's why you hire a professional, right? It's just the same as your attorney reviewing your contracts and advising you on legal terms. Could you do it yourself with something online? Maybe. Is it recommended? Not necessarily. Do you have the time? No.
So now the time is here. You get to spend all your Sundays going to open houses. Can you go to the beach?
No days off.
No days off.
No weekends
Nobody
off.
has time for tailgating. No more brunch with the ladies. You have to be at those open houses front and center. So for the next 12 weeks, maybe longer, 16, who knows, you're going to plan to spend your time house hunting.
Yes, and that's your free time. So if weekends are not your free time, then you're going to do it based on your schedule. And again, that's the beauty of an agent. A buyer's agent can accommodate your schedule. So I have clients that can only come out on Tuesdays. Hey, we don't have to wait for open houses on Sundays. We get to go out on Tuesdays. We time block 4 hours and we see 6 or 7 houses. Sometimes they have an hour during lunch, so they come in, we look at 2 houses. You know, it's all based on you, and that's the beauty of it as well. You don't have to wait for a Sunday open house and do a mad dash. But remember, it may take you 3 to 4 months to find the perfect home. And sometimes in a seller's market where there isn't enough inventory, it could take you up to a year. So that's also something realistic. It's going to be a tiring, draining process, but you have to stick with it because the end goal is so much bigger and so much more rewarding than missing a couple of Sunday tailgates and and a couple brunches. Then you'll have all the brunches and tailgating at your house.
Yes. So you think you found the one. Now it's about to get real.
Step 6. How do we make an offer?
Very good question. This is where speaking with your lender and having your pre-approval locked and loaded is really important. You have your pre-approval. You're going to speak with your buyer's agent about the terms of your offer. How do we decide what we're going to offer? That's a really important question. You know, the seller's asking one price. How do I know if I'm overpaying? Am I underpaying? You know, how do you know market value?
Didn't they know every house is worth $1 million at least?
Oh, yeah,
And at least in the eyes of a seller, it is.
of course.
So we can't always go by the sticker price.
Right. The sellers put an emotional price on homes sometimes. They've raised families, they have tons of memories. You know, their house is the best one on the block and it should sell for $300,000 more than their neighbor who has similar square footage just because they have a new kitchen.
Yeah, and that's called, and then that's a real thing. It's called the endowment effect. So immediately, once you own something, no matter what it is, once I own it, this becomes a lot more valuable to me than it will be to Kate.
Mm-hmm.
And it can happen for a cup of coffee. It can happen for a coffee. It can happen for a coffee. It can happen on a coffee mug. It can happen on a purse, and it most definitely can happen on a house.
Mm-hmm.
So we never just trust what a seller or a listing agent is forced to list a house for.
Mm-hmm. Right. So your buyer's agent is going to run comparative market analysis, which is looking at similar properties in a similar location, in a similar condition that have sold within the last 6 months to a year. And by looking at those recent sales, we really get a sense of what's the market value of a home. And we start to put together your offer. So, you know, I have my purchase price. That's the offer.
No.
Okay.
Absolutely
What else do I
not.
have to think about when I want to make an offer on a house?
So we also think about your terms. What kind of loan are you doing? Is this an all cash deal? Are you doing 20% financing? Are you financing 80%? Are you financing 97.5%? What kind of loan is it? Is it conventional, FHA? Is this going to be a renovation loan? All those things have to be put into your terms. So yes, purchase price, then what kind of loan, and then your timeline. If it's a cash deal, we can close within 2 to 3 weeks. But if it's a more complicated loan where it's a construction loan or an FHA loan that may take a couple of appraisals and visits from your lender, then that may take 45 to 60 days. If you're buying a co-op, it may take 60 to 90 days.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to be clear on how quickly we expect our closing date to be as well. So purchase price, loan terms, closing date, and
If you can't move until Venus is in retrograde or Sagittarius is in Aquarius.
or you just have a long lease and you need 2 months out, all of that we need to reveal.
Right.
Also, if there's something extra that you need as part of the deal, that would be a contingency. Hey, can I buy this house and would you consider leaving your beautiful couch? Or would you consider leaving all the TVs that are mounted? Those could be potential contingencies, along with a delayed closing. That a delayed closing would be a special contingency because the standard closing date is within 30 to 45 days.
It's really important to think about, do you have to sell your current residence in order to buy this residence? Then you have a sale contingency. And in a very, very competitive market, it can get a little tricky because then the seller knows they have really no control over what happens on your side of the deal. So if your house is in contract to be sold, and that the buyer for your house loses their job, that deal falls apart, then the seller no longer has a buyer for their house. They've taken their house off the market. Maybe they missed the spring market. So contingency, sometimes the best price isn't always the best deal. The terms can be very, very important for sellers.
Correct. And sometimes that's important to keep in mind in multiple offer situations where buyers can get discouraged because they may not have the ability to offer the best price, but if you're a solid buyer with a great loan program or you're a cash buyer, then you will be able to get away with making a different kind of an offer than someone with a more lengthy loan process may get away with. Another important contingency is going to be your inspection. Do you want to have a homeowner's inspection prior to signing contract or not? That's something we include in our offer as well. And that brings us to step 7.
Hire a home inspector. They're going to look at mostly focusing on safety issues in the house. They're going to look at the mechanicals. They're going to make sure everything is in working order. If your outlets are not polarized. I don't want to say it.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, so hire a home inspector. A home inspector is going to walk with you through the home. They're going to look at the major systems of the home. They're going to look for any potential safety issues. They're going to do a thorough examination of the home with starting from the exterior into the basement, through all your living areas, making sure all of your appliances are in working order. They're going to look for leaks. They're going to look for evidence of mold, lead paint chipping. They'll look for evidence of termites or pests, anything that is going to be particularly costly and particularly challenging
Or detrimental
or
to the
detrimental.
home.
They'll look at the foundation issue, if there are any issues with the foundation.
Yeah. And this is something we always recommend. So even if you have no inspection contingency, it's always important to go in with your eyes wide open. You want to know that the roof is 10 years old and you'll need to replace it in 10 years. Or hey, maybe it's 1 year old. You just want to verify. You want to go in with peace of mind. And that's why we always recommend it, whether or not you will be bringing anything to the attention of the seller, or whether the house is completely as is and they will not entertain anything after inspection.
So my home inspection is done. I'm actually going on vacation. My attorney is too. So we'll probably get the contract signed in like 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks.
Absolutely not. You want to make sure you get together with your attorney ASAP. The house is continuously being marketed, and it will be aggressively marketed, especially in a place like Westchester. Houses will be marketed from the minute they hit the multiple listing service up until it's sold.
Nothing is legally binding until contracts are fully executed by the buyer and the seller. You did your home inspection, great. People can still see the house and make offers. You spoke with your attorney and reviewed the contracts. Somebody else came in and saw it and put in a better offer. Even if you sign the contracts, until the seller signs the contract, after you've signed the contract, the house is still on the market and the deal is not bulletproof.
Correct.
And
the house is still up for grabs. So you may have had an accepted offer and you may have done your inspection and you could have given your check into your attorney, but the house is still 100% available to everybody else.
So work quickly.
Exactly. You have to
put the pep in your step.
Make sure you get to your attorney's office within a day or two of your inspection.
Great. And when you go to sign the contract with your attorney, you're going to give your deposit. If you're putting down more than 10%, 10% is going to be given to your attorney to be held in escrow until the closing. So make sure you have your deposit ready. If you have to shuffle funds around before, you're able to get the money available, do that before you do your home inspection.
Or in tandem.
Or in tandem.
Or in tandem. While you're having the home inspection, make sure you're calling your bank and you're getting all your funds released, whatever you may need to do. All of this has to be done in tandem so that once that home inspector gives you the green light and once that contract is ready to be reviewed with your attorney, you are ready to go. And this is where we always say speed is key.
Great.
Especially again in a seller's market where you have a lot of competition, you want to move quickly because you need to secure the home.
Right. Okay, step 9.
Finally, we're in contract. We can relax. We can, stop rushing, running around.
Not really.
No, not really, because this is where you have to go to work.
Right.
You have to give everything to your loan officer. You have to fill out your mortgage application, and it's a lot of work. This is a lot of pulling tax records, verifying information, getting pay stubs, all these things that your lender is going to need. You have to stay focused.
Great. Okay, so you're in contract. Don't buy a car.
Yes, you're moving to the suburbs. Yes, you'll need a car. Please don't buy anything, especially not a car, before you close. Buy that after.
Do you want to get 20% off at Marshall's when you go to the checkout line?
No, I mean it. Don't buy anything. Don't buy furniture. Don't get any new lines of credit. Stop shopping. You still have to stop shopping. Keep saving. You're still in save mode, focused on your house.
Don't co-sign, at Major World for your sister-in-law's car because she couldn't qualify for that new Honda Civic. Don't do it. Keep your credit still. Keep your credit completely still. If anything about your credit changes from the time the pre-approval was issued until closing, that could be grounds for the bank to potentially deny your loan. And it's devastating.
Yes, we've seen it a couple times where clients purchase their new Mercedes before they're closing, and their loan application gets denied, and now they have no house and no garage to park that beautiful white convertible Mercedes in.
Right.
Don't do it.
Don't do it. So the house is, if you're getting a mortgage, the house is going to have to get appraised by the bank. They'll send an appraiser over. They're going to look at, similar to our comp report, they're going to look at other properties that have sold. They may do some other adjustments. They have their own sort of formula to calculate value, but they're going to want to make sure that they're lending you money that actually matches with the market. So even though you love the house, you needed to live there, you bid $100,000 over the asking price because this was absolutely the one. The bank doesn't really care. The bank is going to look at market value, and they need to make sure they're not lending you money for a house that's not worth what you want to pay for it. Because at the end of the day, they're really the owner until
That's
you pay
right.
off.
You're just buying a house and giving title to the bank. So they have to protect their best interest. They don't care about you and whether you're overpaying. They want to make sure if they ever have to foreclose on you, they're not losing money.
So your attorney's going to do a title search. They're going to make sure there's no liens on the house. They're going to do a survey of the property to make sure your kitchen hasn't, the new kitchen hasn't been built on your neighbor's property.
Right.
They're going to make sure all, that beautiful deck is fully permitted and legalized and filed with the town.
Yes. And once all of that is all done, so we've filled out our loan application, our attorney has reviewed title, the survey, everything's all
The bank's
set.
done the appraisal.
Bank's done our appraisal.
It appraised. Hallelujah.
Yay, clear to close. That means
Great.
we fulfilled all of the terms of your loan and everything is ready to go. The bank is saying, green light, I'm lending you all this cash.
Great. So we'll show up and sign.
No.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not
of
yet.
course not. Nothing's ever that simple in
Right.
real estate. So once we have clear to close, your attorney's going to work with 2 other attorneys minimum to set up a closing date. They're also going to look at your schedule and the seller schedule as well. So closing dates can be tricky. You may have a clear to close 1 week. It may take a week and a half or 2 to actually get to the closing table. But once we do have a date, a true closing date, then there's still the final walkthrough. And the final walkthrough is just to ensure that the house is still there, everything is still 100% functional, and also if there were any contingencies, like they did have to fix a radiator or there was a broken window that had to be replaced, any additional items that came up during your inspection were corrected and are completed.
Best case scenario, and that's something that I typically insist on, is to do the final walkthrough just prior to driving to the closing. Because if you do the walkthrough the day before and there's torrential downpours that night, the basement could have flooded, a tree branch could have fallen through your master bedroom skylight. You never know what could happen. As soon as you show up and sign the papers and the bank has issued the funds, the house is yours. So you need to know what kind of product you're taking on.
So don't skip the final walkthrough, please. And if you can't make it, as realtors, we'll always happily go there the morning of before you. So I have had situations where the buyer needs to do it the night before. I will be late to the closing so that I can just do one last check of the home before my client signs off.
Great.
So then we go to the closing table.
Closing table talk.
Yes, right? That's what it's all about.
So we've gotten to the closing table.
You
Go
signed
ahead.
1 million papers and you gave your life away to the bank.
Yay. Congratulations.
Yay!
You're a
own house.
homeowner.
You did it.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.